Good evening. Welcome to Shaw Cable's Winter Games Preview. Our sports tonight deal with judo and wheelchair basketball, and I would like to welcome the chairperson for judo, Ken Starchuck, next to me, and the chairperson for wheelchair basketball, Bob Caron. Welcome, gentlemen. Ken, I'll start with you. I understand, like a lot of people, your background in judo is not really extensive. How did you become involved in the Winter Games?
Well, it stems back at last April, I believe it was. I was at work and I had received a call from Mr. Hank Bowes, who's the provincial advisor for judo and was also the provincial advisor for judo in the Dawson Creek Winter Games. And he called me and said that a friend of mine in Dawson Creek, who was a black belt and who was also the sports chairperson for the judo up there last year, had recommended my name. And you know, it was one of these things where I've had, I'm not involved in the sport of judo, but you know, it's just being in the right place, I guess, at the wrong time or whatever, but I'm more than happy. I'm really looking forward to helping out in this event.
So basically learning on the job as you go.
That's right.
Yeah. Bob, I understand you're basically in the same position. How did you become involved in wheelchair basketball?
Well, this is my first experience with formally with wheelchair athletics. This was a tough sports chairmanship to fill because there isn't a lot of action locally, regionally, or provincially from wheelchair athletes in our area, so there hasn't been anyone really around to kind of carry the ball. My wife, Penny, is one of the boards of directors, and I imagine that my name was whispered as things got more desperate, and knowing that I would probably say yes, I agreed to do it. I actually should mention that my co-chairman is Vic Cowley, who's a good friend of mine and has been involved mostly in Alberta with wheelchair athletics.
Okay. And I'd like to later on just get into a little bit of background of wheelchair athletics because it's becoming quite extensive throughout Canada and the world. Ken, what about the history of judo in the games? I believe it's been there almost from the start.
It has. It's been in every one of the games. I believe it's for the last 11 years or since the games have been in existence, and judo has been involved in every one of them.
And how about the wheelchair athlete or the athletics, particularly basketball? It's a relatively new sport, I understand? Or?
Well, it's a growing sport. It's a developing sport in BC. I'm really not sure, Art, how many years. I should have checked this out before I came, but wheelchair basketball has been involved in the Winter Games for a number of years anyway. Last year it was quite a crowd pleaser at Dawson Creek, and we have, I think, a bigger contingent of athletes this year, so it's definitely, you know, hasn't been better than it's going to be this year.
Yeah, well, again, we were mentioning if you haven't seen wheelchair athletics, it's very remarkable, and these athletes, they're true athletes, and they'll put on quite a show for you. Now, what about Ken, the venue in judo? Where's it going to be held?
This year the venue is going to be held at the Savoy Bingo Hall. It is not quite as big as we wanted to have for judo. We originally wanted to have enough room to allow for 2 sets of competitors to compete at one time because of the number of athletes that we have competing this year, and unfortunately the size and you know, isn't quite large enough to allow this, so we're going to have to downsize it a bit, and the space only allows for 2 competitors to fight at any time. So this is going to make for a longer day. We may have to just continue on through lunch hour and Our medal presentation is going to be 6 o'clock rather than 5 o'clock, sort of thing.
Okay. Ken, who sponsors the Judo Association for the Winter Games? Is there a BC association? How's that set up?
Yeah, it's basically the BC Judo Association that's behind the competitors. Each judo athlete has to be a member in good standing of the BC Judo Association and abide by the rules set out by the association. The rules of the competition itself are the International Judo Federation rules, which are the same rules as the Olympics use.
So when they're competing here at the Winter Games, they're under the same rules and
same rules as the Olympics.
Okay. Bob, the wheelchair sports in general is getting a big push over the last few years. Who sponsors wheelchair basketball, for example?
The wheelchair basketball and all wheelchair athletics are sponsored by the Wheelchair Sports Association of British Columbia. It's a national organization. Every province has their own representatives, their own auspices, office, and support staff. Wheelchair basketball is one of those sponsored sports. Their role is basically to promote awareness and acceptance of wheelchair athletics. They offer some direct services in the area of competition, training, leisure counseling, and administration. The sports that are sponsored by Wheelchair Sports BC there's a number of sports that are where our athletes compete nationally and internationally. And as with Ken, or as with Judo, they abide by, in wheelchair basketball, by the international rules. There are a few adaptations, of course, for wheelchair basketball.
Mm-hmm. Just to follow up on a couple questions, Bob, there's your venue is at LB Rogers.
Correct.
And because you're dealing with a wheelchair athlete, is there any modifications that had to be made to LB Rogers?
We've been fortunate, actually, and I know the athletes are going to be really excited about playing at LV. There have been a couple of modifications. One primarily related to the changing rooms, making the showers accessible, the washroom accessible. These are actually renovations that the school board was planning to do this year, and unfortunately we're just a little early to take advantage of all those renovations, but the gym itself is what is really going to please our athletes. They've the boundary lines are of course about 2 or 3 yards from the wall, and these guys really motor on in their chairs. It's going to be by far the best facility, I think, that speaking to our provincial advisor down the coast, that they've had in a long time, and they're really excited about coming up here and competing at LV.
Yeah. I was on a couple of programs ago. I just forget who was mentioning it, but they were saying that they're really excited because it's a full-size court, and,
Mm-hmm.
in previous Winter Games they've been basically on small elementary courts, which
Yeah.
so there's going to be some interesting stuff. Ken, I don't know that much about judo other than basically what I've seen on TV and whatever else. How is the tournament set up? I mean, first of all, are all 8 zones competing there?
First of all, yeah, we have representation from all 8 zones,
Okay.
and approximately 20 to 25 athletes coming from each, or not quite that many from some, but some of the larger ones 20 to 25, and then some maybe down to 15 in the smaller zones. This year the minimum age for men is 16 years of age as of February the 23rd, 89, and for women the minimum age is 13 years as of February the 23rd, 89. We have the weight classes, and for men it's 60 kilograms right up to 86 plus kilograms. And women, it's 48 kilograms on the low side to 66 plus on the top.
And is it, what type of tournament setup is it? Is it just, do you draw your competitors?
Yeah, what's going to happen the Thursday prior to the competition, which starts on the Friday, the officials from the coaches and officials will get together with the names of all the athletes and break them into their proper weight categories, and basically putting their names into a hat and drawing them out, and that's how they'll be, setting up the competitions.
Mm-hmm. What about your sport, Bob? What type of tournament? Now, I understand because it's relatively new, you're not basically playing zones as such, but how has yours worked?
Well, we have some strong representation from some zone areas, but yeah, you're right, Art. We've had, traditionally, because it's a growing sport, there isn't a strong enough representation throughout the province at this point for zones to be represented. So, in all fairness, to have an exciting competition, there's a bit of mix and match. We're going to have approximately 30 athletes with 4 teams. There's going to be a basic round robin. On Friday, we're sharing our venue at Delville with netball, which is a women's competition. We're playing Friday night, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning. And Friday evening and Saturday morning we have our round robin. Then on Sunday morning there'll be 2 final games where the bronze medal will be decided, and the final game will be deciding the silver and gold.
Okay. How early in the morning will you start? 8 o'clock?
Friday at 8, and we like to get going early on Sundays. We'll be starting at 7.
Okay.
And you will be there, won't you?
And I will be there. What about support staff, Bob? You mentioned that.
Yeah, some of our athletes require support staff, medical staff, trainers and whatnot. So we're going to have, I think there's a support staff of approximately 8 or 10 people coming with our athletes.
Now that's supplied by the provincial body?
Yeah, these guys are really organized.
Okay.
They're all members of the provincial association, all the athletes are, and they've got, they're bringing their own referees, medical support staff. One of the refs actually is a medical doctor. So they've got, a lot of these athletes know each other, they've competed a lot together, so it'll be...
What about some of the rule changes? Do they play the same rules?
Yeah, well, of course, you've got the issue of dribbling, in wheelchair basketball, under international rules, when you have possession of the ball as an athlete, you're allowed to move in a number of ways. One, you can place the ball on your lap. You can't have it between your knees, but on your lap, and you're allowed to have 2 pushes. That pivot also, if you're turning one way or the other, is considered a push. You can have 2 pushes in a row, and then you either have to pass the ball, shoot it, or dribble. And you can dribble and then push again and dribble. You can continue that way. Another adaptation is you can coast an unlimited distance after your push.
Right.
Of course, the wheelchair is considered part of the athlete's body. Any infractions that occur connected with the wheelchair, of course, will be considered a personal foul. You can't block someone. They try to minimize the wheelchair contact, but that depends on the referees. They kind of will see what the caliber of play is. And these guys really give her, though. These are excellent athletes. These guys are in excellent shape. And it's not unusual to have players out of their chairs and jumping back in. And
now, that brings up another question. If a player is knocked out of his chair somehow, does he have to get in by himself, or?
Absolutely.
He does. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, again, at L.V. Rogers, which has lots of excellent spectator space, so
yes.
That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Ken, your sport, again, you mentioned that, some of the competitors, now, the little bit I know about judo, we have different color belts. How, now, in the competition, within the weight classes, do you also have color classes within the competition?
Yes, there's going to be, the colors are basically white, your starting belt, yellow, green, blue, brown, and your black. And, or white, or yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black. And basically with the different colors of belts, it's just something like, if you compare it to, say, going over the Selma Creston Highway on a gradual grade, the first going from white to yellow is not all that difficult, and going from yellow to orange is a little more difficult, and so on until you get to the going from, say, to the brown belt. It becomes quite a bit more difficult, and then the brown to the black is a very steep, hard climb, you might say, to get to your black belt. So the different, yeah, there'll be colored belts, basically your orange, green, blue, and yellow. They'll be competing sort of amongst each other, and then your browns are somewhat separate, and then your blacks will be separate again.
Okay. And again, men and women are performing?
Yes, there's men and women that'll be, but not against each other.
No.
But, you know,
Yeah.
no.
Again, we took a look at boxing last week in the program, and we got boxing also. You know, you're dealing with a contact sport, and judo also. So there's the chance that there will be some injuries. What kind of support staff do the judo people have at their venue?
Well, we'll have most of the officials and the black belts that'll be there are quite competent in dealing with most of the usual type of injuries that will happen with judo. They've been around it for a number of years, and you know, they'll be there to assist. There'll be a physician and a first aid attendant there at all times. Just to quickly go over some of the injuries that sometimes do happen with judo. The matches are 5 minutes for men, 4 minutes for the women, and the idea to win a match is to be the first one to have a point awarded for one, a takedown, okay, which is basically a throw, okay, which if it's done properly and it's a complete strong throw and throwing the opponent to the mat, it gets 1 point, and that's the end of the match. That person wins, and it's over. The second way of awarding a full point is if you take your opponent down, get them into a chokehold, and they basically submit or give up. Then that person again is awarded a full point, and they win. You may get your opponent into an arm lock of some sort, and again, he then gives up, signals to the referee that he gives up. He then is given a point for that. So those are a couple of examples where a person is he's been put into a chokehold of some kind of submissive type hold, and he maybe wants to push it to the limit. You know, he may black out, or if he's got somebody in an arm lock and he's figures he may be able to get out of it, and the person applies pressure and maybe dislocate an elbow or something like that. So. Okay,
what about the, which brings us to another point, the officials for this? Are they brought in from the coast, or?
All over the province.
All over the province.
Yeah, from the different zones.
And there's one official per match?
It'd be one referee and 2 judges.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they can all award points, can they, or?
The judges, they each be one judge located in opposite corners. And they basically have a sort of a red flag, which coincides with one of the competitors with a red sash and a white flag. And when the point is awarded, they basically raise their flags.
Okay.
There's part points, half points for some that, say, a throw wasn't really that good, but maybe it was sort of half. They may be awarded half a point.
Okay. Yeah. Bob, just back a minute. Your officials again are coming from where?
They're supplied and have worked with Wheelchair Sport BC. Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes, gentlemen. Your committee, how many people are working on your committee for the Winter Games, Bob?
Our committee is made up of approximately 10 or 12 people,
Okay.
including our hostess and our medal presentation coordinator, results person, and our own officials. Our officials will be doing my volunteers will be doing the timekeeping, scorekeeping, and running the clock,
Okay.
basically.
And Ken, how about your committee? How many people are involved in your whole committee?
Our volunteer committee, we have approximately 8 to 10 people helping out.
We've got a little less than a minute here. Again, just very quickly, Bob, your schedule is when? You're doing it on?
We start Friday at 3 o'clock, break for dinner, and Friday evening. Then we finish the round robin Saturday morning and have our medal rounds Sunday morning.
Okay. 20 seconds, Ken, your schedule quickly.
All day Friday, all day Saturday, and then Sunday morning has been set aside for a clinic to work with the black belts and that.
Okay. And once again, these venues are free. And
That's right.
we have, by the time this program airs, 1 week to the Winter Games. I thank you both very much. It's going to get busier for you, I'm sure, and good luck in your schedules and the Winter Games. That's as much time as we have this evening. Once again, 619 Vernon Street is where the Winter Games office is, 352-1919. They still need some volunteers, so if you'd like to do that, please either give them a call or go down to the Games office yourself. Once again, my name is Art Maxwell for Shaw Cable Winter Games Preview. Good night.